The sweetest lullaby comes in the night unheard, runs out of fairyland into the stream of music. My secret lullaby, a quiet wishful grace, resting in time and space, holding thick raindrops, swirling, twisting, and swaying in meadows of gold, growing wild in silver shadows, flowing out on my burning heart. When in the night a song turns into lullaby, whispering voices into your dreams. Swirling, twisting, and swaying in meadows of gold, growing wild in silver shadows, flowing
Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to see you. So, I can't provide you with a complete biography of my queer ancestors, Warren and Leon. My research is like curating a collection of antiques. I'm not sure about the history, the authenticity, or the provenance. There are pieces of porcelain that are intact. There some crystal that's a bit chipped. There are some tchotchkes that don't fit in this collection at all. They should be deaccessioned, sold, or given away, and the most valuable objects are lost. My project, Warlé, is an attempt to reconstruct fragments and to assemble facts and myths. Part of that work is filling in the gaps. And to do that, I'm conjuring what's not there. That's Leon on the left and Warren on the right. Their dog, Nikki, is peeking through the door. What treasures have I found so far? Essays, letters, and poems written by Warren, artwork by Leon. There are antiques that they sold and gifted, some of which were generously gifted to me. And the most important primary sources, friends of Warren and Leon, some of whom are here today. I'm so pleased to have you here. Leon and Warren died in 2002 and 2007, respectively. Had I actually met them and recorded oral histories, I'm not sure they'd provide answers to all my questions. There are experiences that are just too painful to share. There are events and relationships that we keep private. In 1980, they left New York and they moved to Townshend. For those who don't know, that's about a 25-minute drive north of Brattleboro along Route 30. They bought 10 acres of property, and that included a brick federal-style farmhouse, a sugar shack, 2 sheds, and a garage that they converted into an antique store. The exterior of that garage was unremarkable, but walking inside was like entering a portal into another world. It was a cabinet of curiosities and exotic treasures. They proudly informed customers that Warlé specialized in fine European antiques. And according to one of my interview subjects, if a tourist showed up at their doorstep in search of early Americana, Warren practically chased them away. He'd bark at them, "We have no country furniture." They loved Europe. That was where Leon entered the fashion industry in the 1930s. And in the years after World War II, Warren worked as a journalist and learned the antiques trade in the south of France. Here's a photo I took in April. It's the former location of Warlé on the Upper East Side in Manhattan. Just to the right of the for sale sign, there's a 300 square foot space. That was Warren and Leon's boutique. Soon after I began research on Warlé, I interviewed my Aunt Nancy. Back in the early 70s, she was studying social work in grad school in New York. She was window shopping along Lexington Avenue. At 80th Street, she stopped in front of a small storefront full of color, light, texture, and pattern. It dazzled like a jewel box. She was mesmerized. Nancy didn't remember too many details, but I found this description in the New York Times shortly after the boutique opened in 1958. And here's an image generated by AI to help us get a visual. In the window, reposing on a bed of luscious red felt is a hot chocolate service of eggshell Sèvres china. Within the boutique, a crimson rug continues the red theme of the window decor. Rich blue is splashed over the walls, and shelves are laden with everything from French cologne to Italian alabaster paperweights studded with tiny gold bugs. And Q magazine pronounced that Warlé is tiny but neat. No jumble shop this. On the elegant side, it offers the best of the old combined with the best of the new. Aunt Nancy felt compelled to enter. Inside the shop, there was an older gentleman with thick white hair, slim, dapper, aristocratic. It was Leon, or Léon, with an accent aigu over the E. I suppose he had a special allure to clients because of his previous work as a fashion designer in Berlin, Paris, London, and New York. If Warlé existed today, it would be an aspirational brand, European elegance, luxury, and sophistication. Leon smiled at Nancy. She thought he looked familiar and familial. They quickly discovered that they were relatives. The conversation was pleasant and friendly, but brief. Nancy left the store and never saw Leon again. There was no further communication with these branches of the Ingall family. One more detail about the shop was reported in Q magazine. The author writes, Warren Kronemeyer, Warlé's owner, has opened this boutique as a branch of a shop he operated on the Riviera for 10 years. New Yorkers will make him welcome again in his hometown. But Warren was not the sole owner of Warlé. All you have to do is look at the logo. First thing you notice is the unique lettering, most likely hand-drawn by Leon. Warren and Leon. Warlé. This is a wardrobe trunk, also known as a portmanteau. So, for you Francophiles out there, what does porter mean? To carry. And manteau? Coat. So a portmanteau has two parts hinged together. On this side, you can hang garments, such as gowns, dresses, skirts, and pants. On this side, you've got compartments to store accessories. And here you'd put hats, belts, shoes, hosiery, and unmentionables. In his writing, Lewis Carroll invented portmanteau words. These are lexical blends, combinations of two words into one. For example, if Alice and Humpty Dumpty were here with us today, they might be chillaxing over brunch while discussing this performance of Warlé. A portmanteau was essential luggage if you traveled on steamships in the post-war years. A fashion designer like Leon would have used several trunks for business trips. Leon's career in fashion began in Berlin. Although born into an assimilated Jewish family in Russia, he spent his teenage years and young adulthood in Weimar, Germany. Two key archives helped me learn a bit about Leon's early professional life. I located a dossier on Leon and his parents at the French National Archives. Between 1936 and 1938, Leon paid several visits to the French consulate in Berlin. He needed permission to travel to Paris, ostensibly for work. In visa applications, he stated that his employer, Max Behrendt, sent him to Paris 4 times a year. Leon's assignment was to purchase samples of haute couture gowns in order for Behrendt's company to copy them for mass production. The second archive is in Townshend, and it contains evidence of Leon's work in fashion. The Thompson family was part of Leon and Warren's circle of friends. Warren and Leon recognized that Eliza Thompson, at a young age, expressed an interest in art and design. They designated her as the keeper of Leon's sketches, illustrations, drawings, news clippings, and other ephemera. Like all Jewish-owned businesses, Max Behrendt's company was ultimately liquidated by the Nazis. But Behrendt had the foresight to open a satellite business in England. He emigrated to London in 1935, and 4 years later, assembled a crack team of former employees who also had the determination, luck, and the financial resources to escape the Nazis. That team included Leon. I know this because Liza's collection includes this invitation to the opening of Behrendt's first and last collection with his new British company. The card is dated September 6th, 1939, just 5 days after Hitler invaded Poland. With Leon's help, Behrendt launched a collection of sports suits, dresses, gowns, and skirts. Take a close look at the invitation. On the front is an illustration of a woman in high heels. The shoulder pads on her dress are sized for a football player. The hemline is just below the knee. The waist is tiny. Lots of fabric to emphasize and widen the hips. Her cigarette smoke curves elegantly in the air like her hourglass figure. And this archetype appears again and again in Leon's illustrations and drawings, feminine and masculine. Think Joan Crawford, who starred in The Women, a film that was released in 1939, the same year Leon designed the collection. When Leon began his career in fashion in Germany, Berlin was a major European manufacturing center for ready-to-wear clothing. By the mid-1920s, there were 80,000 companies, half of them Jewish-owned, and they employed around 200,000 workers, including Leon. As a young gay man in Berlin, Leon lived with his parents on Nollendorfplatz, a city square that was, and remains, the city's LGBTQ neighborhood. By the late 1920s, Berlin boasted 160 gay bars and clubs, and the neighborhood of Nolli, where the Ingall family lived, was the epicenter of queer culture. Leon's apartment was just a few blocks from where Marlene Dietrich performed and where Christopher Isherwood wrote stories that were the basis for the musical Cabaret. For Leon, the city must have been a source of inspiration, and Berliners who patronized those gathering spots helped fuel his creativity. It's possible that while working for clothing companies, Leon retained some private clients he met at bars, clubs, and cafes. Clients like Maria. Between the wars, women gained freedom with the right to vote, to pursue professional careers, and to defy gender norms. Maria wasn't thinking about marriage. She pursued romantic relationships with women and men. Like Leon's fashion illustrations, Maria projected qualities of what Germans called the new woman, emancipated. independent, modern, just like the city of Berlin. To learn about the next chapter of Leon's migration story, I relied on his case files from the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. HIAS remains the oldest resettlement organization in the world, now serving immigrants and refugees of all backgrounds. This dossier included an affidavit signed by my grandfather, Morris Ingall, on behalf of Leon. Morris served as guarantor for several relatives escaping anti-Semitism, for those longing for freedom, and those seeking economic opportunity. He himself had arrived in Boston from a town in Ukraine only a few decades before Leon. Leon sailed from England on the SS Samaria on November 8, 1940. Morris and Grandma Bess took Leon in. Several months earlier, Bess had given birth to my father. Leon remained in Boston for about half a year. In March of 1941, he listed his place of residence on West 77th Street in Manhattan in a declaration of intention. This form was the first step towards citizenship. America's entry into World War II put a pause on Leon's fashion career, but the draft was advantageous for Leon and other immigrants. Conscription was a fast track to naturalization, and the Army was where Leon met his lifelong partner, Warren Kronemeyer. The military presented transformative opportunities for gay men and lesbians, particularly those who felt isolated in rural, sparsely populated communities. Most certainly, queer soldiers faced discrimination. Homosexuality was considered a mental illness. But at the same time, the military provided a setting for lesbians and gay men to create a secret society where they found friendship, intimacy, and love. Several years ago, I interviewed Dr. Bob Backus. Some of you here might know that he practiced medicine in the West River Valley for over 40 years and started a family practice at Grace Cottage Hospital. He was Warren and Leon's primary care physician in Townshend, and he was also their friend. Bob and his wife Carol described Warren and Leon as intelligent and inspiring, funny, and fun to be with. I asked Bob how he met them. Bob explained that he was in his office in Townshend one afternoon. He learned that a neighbor down the road was not feeling well, so he decided to make a house call. Bob said, "As soon as I walked through the door, Warren flopped to the floor. He was having a cardiac arrest. That was our introduction. I performed CPR, and it was one of those extremely rare cases of success. Warren immediately came back to life, and did he come back? Warren was asking me pointed questions like, 'Who are you? You did what?' Leon intervened. He admonished Warren, 'This man just saved your life. Don't be so rude.'" I learned from Bob that before the war, Warren was working in Europe for Reuters as a journalist. He would travel across cities and towns on his bicycle, conducting interviews. Warren continued to ride his bike and report for newspapers and wire services after the war began. But he revealed to Bob that his duties were more specialized compared to an average soldier. He was an operative for the OSS, the Office of Special Services. This was a wartime intelligence agency which ultimately became the CIA. Bob's father was also with the OSS. What did Warren actually do during his time with the OSS? Did he recruit agents? Conduct sabotage? Did he run propaganda efforts? Did he seduce Nazis in dark alleys and slit their throats? When I searched personnel files online at the National Archives, I couldn't find Warren's name listed. So naturally, I asked myself, was Warren telling the truth or bending it? At the time I was interviewing the Backuses, I hadn't yet learned that Leon also worked in intelligence. The Army assigned Leon to Camp Ritchie in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Maryland. Ritchie boys took an 8-week intensive course in a number of subjects, like mobile radio broadcasting, psychological warfare, Morse code, aerial photography, the enemy's order of battle, and hand-to-hand combat. Many graduates went overseas to gather intelligence on European battlefields. They interrogated both POWs and civilians. Some Ritchie boys went on to careers as spies and saboteurs at the OSS. In 1942, the U.S. Army opened an MITC, a Military Intelligence Training Center at Camp Ritchie. But according to one Ritchie boy, those initials might have stood for Military Institute of Total Confusion. Graduates of this training program compared Camp Ritchie to a circus, a summer camp, and a resort all rolled into one. Most recruits had no military instincts whatsoever. They were intellectuals with high IQs. They were fluent in languages useful for the war effort, such as German, French, or Russian. 20% were Jewish refugees, like Leon, who wanted to fulfill their patriotic duties and fight Nazism. And Leon was not the only gay Ritchie boy. James Lord was an art critic who wrote biographies of Picasso and Giacometti. Here he is in his Paris apartment, photographed by Henri Cartier-Bresson. Lord titled his final book, My Queer War. It's a coming-of-age memoir set during his army service. Lord often felt conflicted about what he was fighting for. War in any era is a strange, fucked up experience. And his war was queer because it was during his military service that he had his sexual awakening and fell in love. At Camp Ritchie, Lord, for the most part, had a chaste experience. But nevertheless, there were comrades to ogle and admire, including one soldier who slept across from him. He wrote, he was strikingly good-looking, dark hair, green eyes, and the irresistible smile of a cheetah, built like a Greek statue, and he merrily bragged, endowed by nature with the biggest cock west of the pyramids, a boast ratified daily by awed and envious stares in the showers. Camp Ritchie was a training center not only for men, but also women. Ritchie girls included WWII-era, members of the Women's Army Corps. They were former teachers, stenographers, and typists. The majority were single. Like their male counterparts, many had special language skills. They were eager to travel, to develop their professional careers, and to find purpose. The WWII-era at Camp Ritchie performed administrative and clerical work, served as instructors, radio operators, translators, and cryptographers. The OSS boasted a number of illustrious women among its ranks. Virginia Hall spent over a year in France organizing spy networks, running safe houses, and delivering important intelligence to the British government. Using Morse code, she transmitted messages using a suitcase radio. In 1945, the Army awarded Hall with the Distinguished Service Cross for her heroic actions. Women like Virginia Hall and gay people working in intelligence had nothing to lose and everything to prove. Information gathering or espionage was a test of one's courage and patriotism. Arguably, LGBTQ folks were ideal candidates. They knew how to communicate in code. Concealment and covert activity were second nature.
Yes, this is an undercover agent. At least the popular conception of how such a fellow looks and behaves. He is inconspicuous. He blends with his environment. He is, in short, the ideal agent from the enemy's point of view. He's just the kind of agent the enemy is waiting for with open arms. And for that reason, just the kind of agent you aren't going to be.
sky somewhat languid and misty. There in the shimmering distance, sun looks so cold and so far away. Where is our very first meeting? Passionate, poignant, delirious. Do you remember that evening? How we were reckless and weariless. Don't go away. I beg you, please don't leave me. The words of love I will repeat anew. They say that autumn's come, and though I now believe it, it doesn't count as long as I have you. Our little place will never be too quiet. When you are there, there seems eternal spring. So please don't go. So many songs have not been sung yet. The voice of life still rings in every guitar string. Our little place will never be too quiet. When you are there, there seems eternal spring. So please don't go. So many songs have not been sung yet. The voice of life still rings in every guitar string.
In the late 90s, Warren required extra support to care for Leon, who was suffering from Alzheimer's. Warren was struggling as the primary caregiver. Their social worker and doctor asked why Leon wasn't receiving support from the VA. He was a veteran, like Warren. Warren explained that Leon had no health benefits. Leon was discharged from the military without honor because he was homosexual. I was able to procure Leon's Section 8 discharge papers from the National Archives. Despite his skills as an intelligence observer and his training as a Russian translator, he was deemed mentally unfit for service, not eligible for reenlistment, induction, or reinduction, not entitled to mustering out payment, and ultimately not entitled to veterans' benefits. So Warren and Leon's friends and care team urged them to have a civil union in 2001. The year before, Vermont made history as the first U.S. state to legalize civil unions for same-sex couples. Warren began his military service as an ambulance driver. Odd, because Warren and Leon's friends told me that neither of them knew how to drive. Warren wrote that he and Leon met in 1944. That was the same year the Army dismissed Leon. According to historian Alan Berube, the discharge process for homosexuals could include abusive interrogations about personal relationships or solitary confinement in hospitals and stockades. I can imagine Leon feeling isolated, frightened, and depressed. Did Warren, the ambulance driver, meet Leon at the psych hospital? Did he provide comfort and courage for Leon to persevere? Recently, I received a letter that Warren wrote to his social worker, Janet Kramer, in 2002. Janet still lives here in Brattleboro. I hope you're live streaming, Janet. Good to see you. Leon had just died, and Warren wrote this letter to Janet. I go around the house in a kind of dream. I get up in the middle of the night to check on Leon, make certain he is okay, and of course he is not there. I sit down on his bed and I think of the past. I wake up an hour later, still sitting there. During the day, I try to make order, deciding what should stay, what should go, and if it's to go, where. But things are slowly getting better. Slowly, I gain some control of my thoughts. I'm learning to live without Leon and make a new, different life. You have been a wonderful friend to us, Janet, from the day we first met you. I will always think of you with affection and thankfulness. I wish you happiness. Warren K.
When youth becomes a memory, each night seems longer than the last. You will not dream the crazy dreams the way you dreamt them in the past. The crazy dreams will not come true. The daring plans will all fall through when youth becomes a memory. Love shines a different light in you, but what your life bestows on you, those nights as long as gypsy tales, they are as precious as before, still full of singing nightingales, still breathing with inspiring gales that call at dawn to set your sails. And as before, it seems to you your true love's beauty never pales. Do not be sad to see your hair begin to shimmer silver on your true love's eyes, still warm and fair, retain their fearless youthful shine. Some crazy dreams may not come true, some daring plans may just fall through when youth becomes a memory. Love burns a stronger flame in you. Some crazy dreams may not come true, some daring plans, let them fall through. When youth becomes a memory, love shines a different
Warren eventually moved into a small residential care home just up the road from the brick farmhouse. He and Leon made an arrangement with Grace Cottage to donate their home and property in exchange for lifelong care. Their farmhouse still stands, almost structurally unchanged. It currently serves as an administrative office for Valley Village, an affordable senior living community. The paint in the kitchen is the same today as it was in the 80s. In the summer of 2022, I attended a ceremony acknowledging Warren and Leon's generosity and legacy. Both Grace Cottage and Valley Village installed commemorative plaques. Valley Village also unveiled a rainbow-colored sculpture designed by Robert Dugrenier, a renowned glass artist who lives in Townshend and is here tonight. He knew Warren and Leon. Leaders from Valley Village and Grace Cottage recently joined forces to make their institutions more LGBTQ+ inclusive and welcoming. And I witnessed that firsthand. At Warren and Leon's commemoration event, I had the opportunity to meet a lesbian resident at the senior home, as well as queer staff, community leaders, and their allies. During a period of sheltering in place, my research into the lives of Warren and Leon was a vehicle to travel across time and space, a portal to the Warlé multiverse. I crossed the Atlantic with them on the Queen Elizabeth. I was a guest at Leon's luxurious ancestral home in Tsarist Russia. I went to Weimar cabarets, revues, and queer nightclubs with Leon. I bicycled with Warren in the French Riviera. But this journey isn't entirely fantasy. It's very real. I'm here with you in Warren and Leon's hometown. I learned that they met in the Army, but the circumstances are vague. Perhaps it was at a hospital, or maybe it was a social event, a bar near a military base, a drag show. I know a few details. Warren spotted Leon across the room. Leon was leaning against something, a bookcase, a fireplace. Leon carried himself like a dancer. In fact, I learned that he studied ballet as a child and later in life enjoyed going out to dance with friends. When a dancer is praised for good épaulement, it means you have style and carriage. When I hear épaulement, I think of epaulettes on military jackets. The physicality of an ideal dancer or a soldier aren't all that different. There's so much joy in discovering queer kin, but at the same time, there's grief and regret. Why did these branches on the Ingall family tree sever after Leon moved out of my grandparents' homes? I missed the opportunity to connect with them when I was coming out 30 years ago. I like to think that Warren and Leon would have enjoyed a visit in Townshend from their younger cousin. I admire the life they created for themselves in Vermont, surrounded by maple forests and friends. They developed new root systems to anchor themselves. I'm grateful that Warren and Leon found each other. I'm grateful that they found family, a logical family that supplemented and supplanted a biological family. And I'm grateful that their legacy lives on in stories, dance, and in communities that celebrate and welcome elders regardless of who they love.
Each time when you, my friend, sincere and warming gaze. It seems the sky declares expressly love for the earth in streams of sunshine rays. In times of joy, in times of sadness, the sparks of laughter, the gleam of tears, this magic world, despite its madness, I want to share with you for many years. Without words of love or passion, we know each moment that we live, that our tenderness and friendship gives us more warmth than love can ever give. In times of joy, in times of sadness, the sparks of laughter, the gleam of tears, this magic world, despite its madness, I want to share with you for many years. In times of joy, in times of sadness, the sparks of laughter, the gleam of tears, this magic world with all its madness, I want to share with you for many years.
Don't leave. We're going to have a little conversation in a moment. We're just going to get set up here. And while I'm getting my chairs ready, I have some thanks for folks, particularly folks who are watching on live stream. I want to thank our co-presenters, Epsilon Spires and Valley Village. Joanne Blanchard, where are you? Please stand up. Joanne Blanchard is the executive director at Valley Village. Also special thanks to Jamie Moore at Epsilon Spires, who made this possible, who was so welcoming and so keen. Where's Jamie? Okay, she's in the back, but thank you, Jamie. Thank you for inviting me here. I want to give a shout out to our partners at Queer Council of Brattleboro and Friends of Argentine Tango. I want to thank our technicians. I want to thank Sloan Wise, our wardrobe supervisor, Tobin Bartolo, who ran AV for us. I want to thank BCTV for making this live stream possible. I want to thank Rashana Zumberg, who is here with us. She is our production stage manager. I want to thank Ethan Gecko for these beautiful costumes that he designed for us. And I will soon invite our performers to join us for Q&A, but you'll hear more from them, but particularly Mariana Parma, Walter Perez, and Leonardo Sardella. I also want to give thanks to Vermont Humanities, Vermont Community Foundation, the Wyndham Foundation, Arts Council of Wyndham County, Brattleboro Town Arts Fund, Valley Village, Grace Cottage Family Health and Hospital, and individual donors for making this possible. And fiscal sponsorship was thanks to Out in the Open. So I'm done with all my thanks, and now I can be joined now by two very special guests from this community. First, Scott Heller, with his husband Dave King. They are members of Grace Cottage Family Health and Hospital's Equity Team and the owner of Frog Meadow, which is Southern Vermont's premier gay B&B. Scott is a good friend of mine now, and Dave, and I want you to come up here, Scott. And next, I'm going to invite Roshi Hebert, who is the co-leader of Queer Council of Brattleboro. You'll hear more about Roshi from themselves, but Roshi is just so perfect for this panel. Roshi is a retired nurse, a former chaplain, and a veteran of the Women's Air Force. So, Roshi, please come over here. So I want to start by just, you've just seen this. It's very fresh, in your eyes. And I'm curious what aspects or moments of the lives of Warren and Leon in their relationship that may resonate with you.
Well, thank you. Well, this is a tough one because I've seen pieces of this before, so this resonates so beautifully with me. Perhaps the way they came together, perhaps the way they persevered, perhaps the way they built a life for themselves in New York and then completely recreated a new life for themselves in a new chapter in Townshend, which really speaks to new beginnings.
Thank you.
I was struck by, I've been out since early 70s, and I've had several partners, and every time I look at those pictures of myself, and I saw it in both of them, you could feel the love. You could see it. And that just really struck me, and it made me feel connected to them.
Thank you, Roshi. So I'm curious what you have witnessed or experienced in your own families, biological or logical, to be advocates for yourselves and for others.
Well, my life lesson is that you have to watch out for yourself, take care of yourself, because nobody else will. And to use the lives of others as opportunities to say, that's a path I want to go on, or that's a path I don't want to go on, and not feel constrained by preconceived notions of what one should be doing as one ages, or what one should be doing as one moves forward with their life, that you have choice.
It took me a little while to learn this one. Yeah. I put myself in a lot of boxes. I constrained myself a lot because I needed to fit in for my work, for my job. And even though my heart has always been to be the way I am now, it took me 41 years to get here. That had a lot to do with getting into my 60s. I'm now 65, and just at a certain point in your life, you just say, you used it, so I'll say, fuck it. So I'm now 5 years into my transition, and I have never been more happy, more myself. And I wished I could have done this many, many years ago, but I didn't feel safe. And it's funny that I feel safe in this world now, but I do.
What can each of us do, small steps in our own lives, or making changes, big changes on the local, state, national level, to ensure that we all get the care that we deserve? I think I want to start with Roshi because of, your nursing background.
You have to be a fierce advocate for yourself. The medical system has run amok in my eyes. Things are not the way they should be, and they haven't been that way for queer people for a very long time. In my work, my past work as a nurse, I've tried to instruct and educate people because I saw in my work a lot of queer people going without because they were afraid to speak about who they were for fear they wouldn't get the care, and I actually witnessed that. So I would investigate and propose programs to higher management about training younger staff, LNAs, CNAs, how to care for elder people. Because in nursing homes, it's quite difficult for people to stay together as they age. And that was always heartbreaking to me. So I did try to do that work. You know, I tried to do it in Vermont, and Vermonters are they're a lovely bunch, but they think everybody's the same. And so a lot of them take that into their work. And so we miss out on a lot of educational pieces here in Vermont. I worked up north in the Northeast Kingdom. And if everybody's good in Vermont, they accept you. But when it comes to services and help, that doesn't always equate. So I think we really do need a lot more education in this area. Hopefully, politically, we will continue to go down the right road, and that will do a lot for us, but still education is really important in the medical field. Trauma-informed care, I know is thrown and talked about a lot, but as I age and use the medical system still, I find it very difficult. I often wonder, gee, they must have been absent the day they were teaching trauma-informed care, and so I think we really need to push and make more effort to do that work.
Wow, that was a mouthful. I would probably say education, educate, and leadership. And if you don't see what you want, make it happen. That's kind of how Grace Cottage ended up with the equity team. And so, you know, in Vermont, you say that everybody's the same, but one of the most amazing things about Vermont to me is if you want to see something happen, you have an opportunity to make it happen. At least I've seen that in so many ways because the communities are so small. The connections are generally 1 degree of separation. And if what you want to see isn't there, take a stab at making it happen.
Well, I saw, you know, with you and Dave, you're making it happen. You want to stay here in Vermont. You want to age in place here in your community. And this is part of the reason, I think, why you stepped up with the equity team.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We want to take questions also from the audience. And if you have questions for these two, eventually when the dancers come out, if you want to ask more like the creative questions, feel free to do that. But does anyone have questions now for Roshi or Scott? If not, I just want to give you a little bit of food for thought, but feel free to raise your hands if you have questions. But, you know, what do people need to know about LGBTQ plus caregivers and care recipients? How can we show up for our neighbors? Queer people generally have an expansive notion of kinship. Most LGBTQ plus elders today don't have children to be involved in their care. And I wanted to share just a few bits of information that I collected from SAGE, which is a really important national organization supporting LGBTQ plus elders. This was based on a UCLA study in 2023, and it's sobering information. Queer elders have high rates of economic insecurity, with poverty levels higher than non-LGBT older adults. LGBT older adults are more likely to receive SNAP benefits. Hispanic and Black LGBT older adults are more likely than white older adults to indicate food insecurity. Many mistrust medical systems, and they fear discrimination. They fear having to go back into the closet if they're going to end up in a nursing home, in hospice, or a senior living community. And this is what's so beautiful and remarkable, I think, about what Valley Village and Grace Cottage is doing. I mean, it was I was just so moved by the work that these two institutions are doing. And on social isolation, LGBT older adults were nearly 2 times as likely to indicate that they live alone when compared with straight, cisgender older adults, and nearly a quarter report that they have no one to call in case of emergency. So I think we should follow the lead of Dr. Vivek Murthy, our Surgeon General, and find ways to connect with folks. It's so important. Anyway, are our dancers ready to join us? Yes, please join us. So here we have Walter Perez, our choreographer and dancer, Mariana Parma, and Leonardo Sardella. Any questions for these folks? Any questions about this project in general? Okay, let's pass it to them.
Yeah, hi. I'm wondering the connection between your relatives and the couple that you described and tango. Like, how did tango come to be part of this?
That's a great question. So I think tango has a lot in common with caregiving. You've got a caregiver and you've got a caregiving recipient. And you kind of have to do a delicate dance together. You got to know when to push and when to pull, when to support and when to let go. So I just thought it was a good metaphor for dance. And you know, I mentioned in my story that I was trying to imagine how the two of them met, and then I heard that story about them seeing one another across the room, and I just imagined them having a dance together. And my mind just went to tango, which I really have no background in, and because of these folks, I started taking lessons. And then Walter and I have a mutual friend named Yehuda Hyman, who's also a choreographer, a dancer, a playwright, and I asked Yehuda, can you think of some tango dancers who might want to imagine the lives of Warren and Leon? And he said, well, I know Walter and Leo. Maybe they'd want to collaborate with you. So that's the story. Any other questions from folks in the audience? Yes.
So what were the moments, or how did you decide on what moments inspired a dance, and what were the right moments for a dance?
It's you three.
The first, hi everybody. So this project, it was growing up. So we start with just one encounter, the last number, so Warren and Leo in military suits getting together. And that was our first presentation at the Y. And then we added 2 more numbers. And this time, well, we already did the spice. So this is the 4th choreography. So it's growing. I love the project and I keep pushing to more dancing, more dancing.
And I push back. You know, it's that tango tension, you know.
But coming back a little bit to your question, tango, it was a very popular dance in Europe, and it was a tango mania in 1912. So tango originated in Argentina with a queer origin. So in that time, tango was prohibited by the church, so men dance among them and women in the houses. So tango also have this queer connection, and that is coming back because in 2000 they start with queer tango festivals where everybody chooses their roles and the roles are not determined by gender. And with Leo, we organized a queer tango in New York for 8 years, and we travel around the world with queer festivals. So I think it was a dance that the match, and it's very theatrical. Mariana is an amazing dancer, and we worked together for so many years. So I don't know.
I was happy to bring some female energy into this piece. So thank you, Mariana.
Thank you. Well, tango is the beauty of tango, that it is masculine and feminine, and you can't take one out of the other. You need both. And I think that's where you find the give and take. And tango has great storytelling. You know, people think that tango is just, 2 to tango, but you saw 3 to tango, could be 4 to tango, many things can be tango. It doesn't have to be the traditional one-on-one female-male. So I think that's what really inspired me about this project, was we were telling a story that is true, and we are using tango as another element to portray the love story between these two people and their journey in life. Neil?
Are we ready to dance? Are you ready to sample a little queer tango? So we're all going to move into the social hall, and these 3 are going to coach you on becoming premier queer tangueros, okay? So please join us.
So Andy, my dad used to say, "You're only great to see you." Great job. This is so wonderful. Dave has got to mind the shop. We got a full house.
You told me.
My dad used to say, "You're only as good as your dance partner." And I use that as a metaphor for so many things. This is great.
It's just so exciting to have you here in particular. Like, you were there from the beginning. You watched this grow up. Hi, Varen. Yes, I'm sorry I didn't recognize you earlier. Hello. I'm so glad you're here.
For like 10 minutes.
Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, there was like the end of the interview and he didn't mute his microphone. He's like talking to all these people. It's like saying hello and it's like coming into the speakers. It's like very funny. Hi, chicken. Chicken.
So we are not so close to each other. Yeah, good.
Okay, thank you all for coming, for choosing to come out tonight and to support this amazing event. We're going to get started. First thing is first, I want you to bring your feet together. Like this, bring your heels together. Something has to touch, either your heels, your inner thighs, your knees, something. Doesn't matter. Good. Once you're touching, all I want you to do is just to shift your weight from one side to the next. Yeah? And as you shift your weight, you can bring your toes up a little bit, like curl your toes upward and then lift your heel a little bit. Yeah? Feels like you're marching a little bit. Yeah? A little march in place, a very tiny march. Good. Now we're going to put a little count to this so we can follow with the music in a moment. And the count's going to go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. And relax your hands out of your pockets. Let it shake, shake, shake. Woo, shake your shoulder. Now we gotta give a little shake. Whoa. Yes, yes, yes. I know it feels like that was very serious, but it can be very relaxing too. Good. So we keep moving in spot in our place. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. Now we walk to the center for 4. 1, 2, 3. In place. And 1, 2, 3. Carefully to the back. And 1. Looking at your shoulder just a little bit. 2, 4, and in place. 2, 3. Again. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and in place. 2, 3, 4, and back. 2, 3, 4, in place. 1, 2, 3. Again. Drag the feet. Da, 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 in. Da, da, and back. And 1, 2, 3. In place. And 1, 2. Last time. Forward and back. And 1, 2, 3. In place. And 1. Now reach your toes back as you walk. Reach 1. Toes back. 3. Oh yes. In place. 1. Let's do it one more time. That was good. Again. And 1, 2, 3, 4. In place. 1, 2, 3. Reach the toes back. 1, 2, 3, 4. In place. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Yeah. Should we try that with music?
Yeah, you could spread up. You could leave all this setup is for you guys. If you want to leave your stuff in this side, and let's try to get closer to the circle so we have some more to the center. Sorry, so we have more
A little
space.
bit more
And you are
space.
not so attached to the wall. Yeah, come a little bit closer.
Here we go with the music. Same exact thing, but now with the music. So I just want to explain a little bit about the music, right? The tango music, we count in 4 count phrases. What we're going to step to, we call the compás. Can you say that? Compás. El compás. El tango. Yeah, that means the beat, right? It's the heartbeat. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Whenever you lose the timing or the count, we just use numbers just to have a guide. But just go back to this. Yeah? Here we go. Let's hear that music. That's it. 4 counts in place. Down. Walking forward and 1,
Everyone's awake. Just kidding. All right, awesome. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn a quarter towards our right shoulder. So you're going to go a quarter to the right. If you don't know what that means, just look around.
Yeah.
Follow the masses. Yes, excellent. We're going to do the same exact thing. This time we're going to go counterclockwise. Why? Because this dance is a dance that travels counterclockwise. Most partner dances do that. There's a whole reasoning behind it, but we won't get into that right now. It doesn't really matter too much. So, we move counterclockwise. We're going to do the same exact thing. 4 in place, 4 advancing, 4 in place, and we're going to keep going forward. We're not going to walk backwards just yet, yeah? So, DJ Leo, let's try it. It is so confusing. Yes, tango. You're very confused. I know. Yes! A pretzel. I love that. Pretzel time. Okay. So if you're in this pretzel, you're like, what's happening? It's gonna happen. Okay. In this pretzel position, if you are inside the circle, thank you, Leo. Okay. Talk a little technical stuff. My palm that is right up against my belly button, we're going to call that our center of gravity. Center of gravity is what keeps us upright. Right above in your heart, that's your center of connection. So I want you to open up that center of connection and reach your heart out. Muy bien. So now, as I shift with Leo, oh, by the way, those who are inside the circle, guess what? You are living. Oh, yes. And if you're on the outside of the circle,
we are following.
you are following. Oh, yes, babies. Okay, so I'm leading. I'm going to start to do the same thing. I'm going to take my movement in place. And then when I come forward, I'm going to guide my partner forward. And then I'm going to pause. You can do it in 4 counts, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 11, however times you want, but I will guide you for 4, and then we start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, in place, 1, 2, 3, and you engage in that center of gravity and connection, keeping your shoulders back, chest up, muy bien, y 1, 2, good, I love it. Now, to avoid any crashes, just move around someone, yes? Don't go into them. Try to keep the circle big. Try not to go into the center of the circle. Keep yourself on the peripheral of the circle. Beautiful.
This is Caregiving.
Exacto. And 1, 2, 3, 4 in place. 1, 2, 3, and okay, now watch this. Watch this. I like this part a lot. When I say switch, those who are inside the circle, watch what happens. I renounce my lead. And now my partner is now going to be the leader. So guess what that means? If you're on the outside of the circle, you are now following your partner who's in the inside of the circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4 in place. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and in place.
Great.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to do all that with music. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to keep your same partners. You're going to stay with the same partners. You're going to try it with music. You have a choice. It could be 4 in place, 4 forward, 4 in place. It could be 2 in place. It could be 1 in place. You are leading leaders. It's up to who? Us. Us. And who is us specifically? Leaders. Nothing against the followers, okay? We are all actively participating.
Yeah. One thing. So, tango is the dance of immigrants. It have this heaviness, nostalgic, yes. So a lot of people when think about tango, they're so happy, but it's not a salsa, it's not a polka. Yes, it's a lot of a struggle. So thinking that you lead from your heart, not from your pelvis or your knees.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah. So
Don't scare them, Leo.
No.
Don't scare them.
I don't want to be a party.
What a party hooper.
Yeah. But be careful to go with your knees or be so happy. Drag your feet. You are nostalgic and melancholic. It's a lullaby. You want to fall asleep.
Move through your pain.
Yeah.